Hello, how are you? Good, right. Okay, so I'm going to get to the point. Um, you might have seen it online, but about a month ago, um, Total Guitar magazine did this 100 greatest guitarists of all time. Well, I mean, already I think you kind of want a losing battle there because, say, it's not like with sports, say, like in football, that players have records, number of goals played or number of caps for a particular team. Like in boxing, undisputed fights, they've had so many fights and so many losses or whatever. Same with tennis, same with things like running, number of gold medals won, or fastest times, or swimmers, or things like that. You can actually do, like greatest of all time. And even in the editorial here, it says, I hope you don't mind me quoting this. This is Chris Bird, acting editor. And it says, let's see. It's a phrase I use with trepidation because I do feel that creative endeavour of music can't really be measured. And then he goes on, talking about how albums at the moment, they're not really guitar orientated. And it almost seems like some kind of almost like a wake-up call, kind of, well, when you actually realise who's in the charts. Police going by. Okay, when you actually realise who's in these charts, it's all stuff that's happened in the past. So, right, I mean, without giving it up, well, it's pretty obvious that, with Brian May on the front, that he actually came top. And in some ways I can kind of agree. I mean, it's like in Brian's case, I mean, how many bands can you name that have, played Wembley Stadium? I mean, I worked it out, they played them 5 times, like Live Aid. They did the Friday and Saturday night concerts, which you might have on DVD. They did the Freddie Mercury tribute, so that's 4 times already. And then they played the closing of the Olympics. To be able to do that, and fill out the stadium as well. And however, I mean, that's Queen. That's Queen as a band, not Brian May as a guitarist on his own. Whether like his solo work would have the same impact, I don't know. As a person, he's done great stuff, like with the animal rights and environmental concerns, etc. Even like some of the things he's done about the astronomy and whatever. That, like, if you're a novice, if you don't know anything about, like comets or lunar eclipses or like solar eclipses or or he was talking about some kinds of clouds and things, wasn't he, a few weeks ago? If you don't know anything about those, then that's great, because he's actually taken his fame, celebrity, if you like, and actually done something positive with it, which is great. However, if you go through now, the first chart they've listed, top 25 rock players, and they're all players that are sort of, well, there's not one amongst them who's like of the modern generation. They're all either sort of late 60s, early 70s blues rock type players, or you got people like Slash. Let's see. Billy Gibbons is in there, so ZZ Top. I mean, I know they were popular in the 80s. But you're not really getting like a game-changing guitarist in that list. What's next? What's the other? Blues players. Yes. Now this is one I have a bit of a problem here as well, because some of the players on that top list, I mean, like for example, Eric Clapton is listed. Let's see, Eric Clapton is listed number 5 in the top rock players of all time. Hendrix is listed at 2. Jimmy Page is listed at 3. Jeff Beck at 9. Billy Gibbons again 15. And so on. But you'd expect some of those players to actually be on the blues list. Stevie Ray Vaughan's at 1. B.B. King. I mean, you could argue Stevie Ray Vaughan might well be on the rock list as well, but he's not there. And then what about some players which aren't on this list? Let's move on a bit. What's next? Then we got like rock and roll players. How many of those have we got? Well, yeah. Let's see. Chuck Berry, Hank Marvin, Les Paul. Les Paul was a. You see, like to me, I always thought like Les Paul was like a jazz player. That there's a kind of a crossover between Les Paul playing bebop and bebop forming the roots of rock and roll, but I don't know. So actually they listed it as early innovators, not rock and roll players. So I'm slightly wrong there, but I kind of give them that. But it's stretching things a bit. But again, I mean, why isn't Chuck Berry on the rock and roll list? Why isn't Hank Marvin on the rock and roll list? The rock list. The greatest guitarists. Why isn't Hank a bit higher up? Because Shadows they've been going for a while. And then they keep retiring and then coming out and doing tours and whatnot. But anyway, babbling a little bit. Right, so let's move on. Then metal players. So they've done a top 10 of those, with Tony Iommi as number 1. But again, this is kind of like stuff that's like in the past. I've got nothing against Tony or Black Sabbath, but it's stuff that was done a long time ago. When that first Sabbath album come out, was it 68ish? So let's see. I think the most recent player is probably Sinister Gates or Mark Tremonti as in the top 10 metal players. Right. Dimebag's listed, but again, that's a good few years ago now. Right, what else we got? Moving on. Okay, then we've got shred players. Now, the thing is with this, I almost want to chuckle, because what does shred player actually mean? It just kind of means you play sort of fast, or you can play fast. In which case, surely you might put somebody like Al Di Meola in that list as well. Or where's Paco? Where's Paco de Lucia? Or any of those flamenco players. They were doing the shredding, if that's what you want to call it. They were doing that before that term was even coined. But you do have, let's see, Steve Vai at 1, Yngwie Malmsteen at 2, Satriani at 3, Paul Gilbert 4, John Petrucci at 5. Surprising they've got Eric Johnson at 9. That Eric Johnson's listed as a shred player rather than a rock player. Or rather than a fusion player. That seems odd. Guthrie Govan, he's listed at 7. Why isn't he listed as a fusion player? Michelangelo Battio, he's listed as a shred player, but he's not listed as a metal player. You'd expect, say like with the Brit Awards or like with the Oscars, sometimes it's possible for an artist to appear in 2 or 3 different categories, isn't it? So why is that not happening? And again, why is it all seem to be stuff that's at least 20 years old? Why is it not stuff which is more current, which is more up to date? Where is this great revolution? Or why is it that this great revolution seems to have taken place sort of years ago? Right. Anyway, stop moaning. What have we got next? Oh, now this one. The top trailblazers. Now you won't believe this because it goes number 1, Prince, and then there's a big article about Prince, and that's it. Right. So I mean, that's like, if you got a category where there's only one guitarist in it, I mean, wow. I mean, God, it's sort of almost like the North Korean election results, isn't it? Right. Okay. Anyway, I'm moaning a little bit. Then we move on to punk guitarists. Now again, I'm finding that quite surprising because, well, they've only listed 5 players. Right. So all you indie punk guitarists out there, or maybe you could name some more. According to Total Guitar readership, there's only 5 of them. You find, like with all of the categories, that Total Guitar picks players and that they would list what their favourite players are. But that's not the same. That's opinion. It's not a poll. If you have a poll, say like with Brexit, even if you don't agree with Brexit, you're kind of like, well, that's the result. It's a democratic process, allegedly. You have to agree with it. You have to accept. Right, that's the poll. There we are. What do we do now? Where do we go from here? You don't sort of suddenly give an opinion. Or maybe you do. Maybe you do. I mean, you can hardly say that that there was Russian involvement in the Total Guitar polls, can you? Anyway, we'll move on a little bit more. Now we've got another interesting category, because we've got the top acoustic players. Now, by acoustic, here they've got that sort of number 1 is Bert Jansch for a start, and then Richard Thompson, Joni Mitchell, but then that's it, 3 players. So I mean, I even know from like some of the people who've subscribed to my channel that there's a big market for this acoustic fingerstyle playing or singer-songwriter type stuff, and yet they can only name 3 guitarists. They can list some others, like Paul Simon, John Redbourne, Ed Sheeran. I don't know if these are in any order, but Ed Sheeran didn't make the list. I mean, that surprises me a lot, because Ed Sheeran has he's had a lot of hits, hasn't he? And he's got his own guitar line, and he's had a really good career. Oh, he's having a really good career. But then again, there's no classical guitarists listed, and like I said before, there's no flamenco players listed. They're like, where's Paco? Where's Tomatito? Where's Vicenza? A lot of those flamenco players. Again, where's Eldemila? And there's again where Richie Blackmore could fit in this category as well, because of the Blackmore's Night. He's not just a rock player. In fact, for a long time he actually turned his back on rock music because he thought it was jaded and there wasn't anything really innovative happening in it. He wanted to hark back to his roots, the kind of thing which had been coming through in things like Temple of the King, etc. He just wanted to do that more fully. So where are the acoustic guitarists? Alright, anyway. Right, what's going on now? Okay. Now, they've got a section called Jazz and Fusion Players. And they've only listed 5 players. So out of all the jazz guitarists and all the fusion guitarists, they've only come up with 5 players. And the thing is that, like, the thing with fusion is, it's either an offshoot or a parallel movement to progressive music. So it's about combining different forms. If you're saying you're a fusion player but really you're a jazz player, that's kind of wrong. That's not what it's about. It's kind of about breaking down the barriers. I mean, a few weeks ago I was talking about Miles Davis. You know, that he didn't want to call it jazz. He wanted to call it social music. You know, because it's about making stuff which seems highbrow and elitist, making that more accessible to, you know, the man in the street. So why is there only 5 players? And it also seems odd comparing Django Reinhardt with, say, Wes Montgomery. Yeah, because Wes Montgomery, you could kind of put him in a class of his own. There's no George Benson listed here either. There is in the Total Guitar Picks, but not been voted for. And then we come to this next section where they've got 15 guitarists, alt meaning alternative, and indie players. Now, not surprisingly, Johnny Marr's number 1. John Frusciante, is that how you pronounce his name? The guy at the Red Chili Peppers. He's number 2. But he's not in the rock players, and then he's not in the metal players either. So, but you would expect some crossover there. Let's see, Kurt Cobain's down there, Matt Bellamy, Jerry Cantrell's at 11. Now I might have expected him in the metal list rather than in the indie alternative, but it depends. I mean, if you count sort of like Jerry Cantrell's solo stuff as alternative music, or Alice in Chains as an alternative band, then maybe I could agree with that. But it does seem a bit odd. Okay. Thurston Moore at 13. Oh, then there's some like sort of transcription thing. Now, this is the final bit. This is the final section. Top guitarist right now. Number 1, Nita Strauss. Well, I'm not knocking Nita for a career. She's had a very good career. She's been, played, but she's more of like a classic rock player, isn't she? Or she's known more as that, because like she was in the Iron Maidens, and then she was, she is sort of guitarist with Alice Cooper's band. But putting her here alongside some of the other players, I mean, like I'm sorry, I can't pronounce the name. Urjalintinen, Finnish blues maestro. Okay, so she's a blues player. Plini. Now, I mean, I've always thought that Plini was a kind of fusiony type player, much closer to somebody like Guthrie Govan, or like Holdsworth, or somebody like that. Well, I mean, all right, obviously influenced by bits, but and then number 10, Yvette Young. Yeah, what's this? Number 5, Chris Stone, Kingfish Ingram. He's a blues player. And then like in the Total Guitar Picks, Misha Misha Mansour and Mark Halcon. Now they're not in the metal category, and yet you click on YouTube and it seems to be full of like sort of down-tuned um, sort of gent players and all that sort of thing. So it seems odd. It seems very odd to me that there's only 10 players at the moment actually making an impact. There's only 10 players in the world, people, who are actually doing anything fresh and innovative. The rest of us are just retreading the board. We're just going through the motions, rehashing the same old trite. I said trite, I didn't say... yeah. So I think that's what it comes down to. What happened? You know, why is it that the big revolution, etc., all the great stuff seems to have happened 10, 20, 50 years ago, or even longer? You know, where is it? What went wrong? You know, why aren't we breaking through? Please let me know what you think. I mean, you can tell me. I mean, personally, I say the greatest guitarist of all time was somebody like Julian Bream, because even though he's a classical guitarist, he went through the rest of the acoustic guitar family. So he plays the lute, the viola, and the baroque guitar, and you know, and he's transcribed and whatever, and he's had a long career. But he's not listed, and likewise, I would have put somebody like Paco in that list because of what the actual impact that he had on rock players as well. And Al Demila, why is he not on that list? So yeah, so please let me know what you think. I hope I'm not alone thinking like this. But it also, I mean, just in closing, I mean, if some of us are, you know, like sort of trying to, you know, thinking, oh yeah, well, I'm just treading my own path. I'm just, you know, doing my, you know, my thing, which you can't really categorise, and you know, etc., etc. In some ways, the fact that the list is so limiting suggests that we need some sort of continuity with those players of the past, you know, with what they were doing, and then in some ways to bring that forward. In which case, a guitarist like Richie Faulkner ought to be on the list of like the players right now, you know, because what Richie's doing. I mean, if you haven't seen any of his stuff, I mean, for a start, he got the gig with Judas Priest. Yeah, he got the job as you know, like guitarist in Judas Priest, but he's deliberately focused on that sort of early 80s new wave of British heavy metal style, and in that way he's kind of taken that form and then moved it into his own way. You know, he's bringing in bits of Hendrix as well, bringing in bits of Brian May and Richie Blackmore and a lot of Dave Murray. And you can see it, but in that way he's actually shaping his own style, and that kind of revisitation on something that's gone before, that can actually help. But even so, people, it's a bit of a wake-up call for us, isn't it? That either we need to sort of try and tie it in with the tradition of players that have gone before us, or we need to start striking out and putting forward innovative material, not reheated leftovers. You know, that cold lasagna that's been in the fridge for a few days, or you know, that you know, etc., etc. So I'm going to leave it there. If you like this video, please comment below. Please consider subscribing. I'll see you soon. Thanks very much.